All right. There's a 10-second delay here, so I think we're live. If anybody in the chat can just quickly give us a little thumbs
No,
up.
it's working.
It's working.
I forgot to mute YouTube, and I was like, "Oh fuck, there's 2 minutes." So it's working. We're all good.
All right. Good. Okay, so hello, welcome to Mud and Blood, a podcast Dark and Grim. This is something a little bit new for us. We've not done a kind of a public live stream before, so this is it's gonna be interesting. We're gonna try and keep it short, about 20 minutes, but that's, we always try at the very beginning. We try to keep our podcast short. That didn't work for very long, so yeah.
Mud and Blood short. That's what we're aiming for.
We're aiming for 20 minutes, which means we should be able to keep it to under an hour.
Yeah.
And really, what we wanted to start is this is kind of a tech demo, just to let us try the whole live streaming thing, playing around with overlays, like you're seeing this little ticker thing down here underneath my face. We'll probably do more funky things in future as we do more stuff, but I'm relatively new to this, so starting with small steps. And we're basically here to talk about some changes coming to the podcast, and stuff happening in the background, and just really wanted to, rather than make a really long article about it that people are probably not going to read, we thought it'd be nice to, do a video where people can see our faces and, all the rest of it. So, yeah, should be able to keep it under an hour. We will definitely keep it under an hour. Quick caveat, there might be some animal noises from both sides of the globe. I have a rabbit in the room with me who likes to gnaw on the cage, which is very, very loud. So if you hear that, nothing I can do about it, I'm afraid. And Liam, what have you got?
I have my dog, which is lovely and serene and asleep on the bed behind me. I've also got the neighbor's yappy little bastard who likes to start sometimes, and there's nothing I can do about that short of shooting it. And I live next door to a cop, so I'm not too keen.
Oh, no. Not a good idea. Cool. All right, so let's just jump straight into it. To try and keep this under an hour and hopefully closer to 20 minutes. There's kind of two big things we want to talk about. The first big thing are changes that are going to affect basically our patrons over on Patreon. And the other one is to do with things that are going to be also probably involving patrons to a certain extent, but will be more public facing. Yeah, so really, I guess, should we start with the Patreon changes? Maybe?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, first, before we get into that, it is kind of a Patreon change. We have kind of announced it in a few places. I'm not sure we've done a really big global announcement for it, but people may have noticed that things have slowed down a little bit on our on the broadcasting side from us since Christmas. That's because we were pretty much running flat out, basically in October, from when the cult. I mean, it was busy anyway. We were doing more or less weekly podcasts. We were trying to do 3 or 4 on, 1 off, and it kept stretching out a little bit. Then we introduced our actual play, the Carrying Company actual play, alongside that rhythm. So we were basically doing 2 episodes in a week, every other week. Then we added the cult actual play on top of that. So basically every single week we were doing 2 lots of content, and we only did that for like the first 2 episodes of cult, and then we stopped because it was I'm not sure if you were supposed to swear here on YouTube, but we've done it, so
I've already sworn. It's already happened.
I didn't even notice. Well, fuck it then.
Yeah, fuck it. Go for it.
So we were just flat out no time to kind of spend with our families, with our loved ones, and no time to like read. We're also trying to review a different game every month, as well as all the editing and the like organizing all the channels and stuff in the background, all the stuff that needs to happen. It was just too much. So we decided to make a change. We first asked our Patreons if they were cool with it. We got pretty much unanimous thumbs up from that, from our Patreon supporters. And this is what we're doing now. So we've taken a little bit of a break just to kind of have a breath of air after Christmas, and now we are only going to be releasing one episode a week, and we're going to be alternating that with a regular episode and an actual play episode. So you'll still get an actual play episode once a fortnight, but it's not going to be in addition to our regular content. And on top of that, we're not going to be reviewing a game every month. First of all, that was a little bit too much for us anyway, but also for only doing maybe 2, maybe 3 normal episodes a month, that means that we're only going to be doing reviews and nothing else. So really, we're slowing the pace down quite a bit from our end, but for everyone listening, hopefully our fans and everyone else who might be listening, I don't know if you'd be listening if you weren't a fan, but anyway, yeah, you'll still be getting weekly content from us. So that's the big change.
Yeah, when we asked our patrons, the overwhelming feedback we got is people weren't able to keep up with us anyway, because we're doing 2 or so more, 2 hours, give or take half an hour either side podcasts, and doing 2 of those a week, that's a lot of listening hours. And you'd have to be a bit of a champion to keep up with that. The people who I think will notice this change the most, we have some people who only listen to us for our sort of discussion stuff, or only listen to us for our actual play stuff. They may notice a bit of a drop. The people who will notice the most are the people who only care about Cult, because that's now not coming out until after we finish Carrying Company. Yeah, so June. Months from now.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where especially when it comes to editing times, like the editing that goes into those actual plays, because we want to keep it a high standard. The other option we could have done was massively reducing the quality and just doing raw outputs. That's what everyone does, and we want to be a bit special. If you're going to sit there and listen to us talk for 2 or so hours, we want it to be entertaining in a way that is more than just 5 people talking shit at the table. So so, and all up, there's 3 of us who actually make and edit all of these videos. You've got myself and Matt obviously doing the lion's share of the listener facing stuff, and then Julia, my partner, was editing all of our discussion stuff, and she gets nothing out of that other than a happy boyfriend. So I know she was struggling to keep up with our output around her work life and everything as well. So us reducing it to every other week has helped her actually get stuff ready on time, and has resulted in less situations of me trying not to pressure her too hard to get the stuff done to release on a schedule. And Matt not feeling like an arsehole every time he's like, so when's that episode coming? We're reducing that whole stressful thing. So, it's just easier all around. So it's kind of a thing that especially because another thing we were doing around about the same time we did Cult is Matt's been doing these one shots of all of our games that we review. Initially he was uploading those for patrons, and then it was like, well, if we're going to be doing it anyway, we may as well upload it for all of our listeners. And then that ended up being an extra episode every month, and then on top of that, we still have to queue in our patron Q&As, our live rambles, all that sort of stuff. So we were doing probably 2 things a week outside of all the editing and stuff, just recording. And that's easily sustainable if we're doing this as a full-time job. It's not. So it would basically become a second job for everybody involved. And as great as Patreon is, it's not quite at the point yet where we can start reducing hours at work. So just for the sake of our sanity and avoiding burnout, we're pulling it back, but we'll be consistently 1 full release every week. There's always going to be things to listen to. And hopefully, as you'll soon see, a bit more interaction, especially with our patrons. So, a lot more going on there. So, the people who are there really supporting us, they'll still get a lot of our undivided attention, and more of it now than they would have gotten before when we were focusing so much on editing and releasing. Yeah.
So Patreon. Changes coming to Patreon. If you are already a Patreon supporter, then basically everything that's in the existing tiers is more or less going to stay the same. We're just going to be adding stuff and tweaking the tiers slightly so that you'll basically get more bang for your buck than you currently do. And in addition, we're going to be introducing a new like top tier. I just saw from Martin, blah 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 blah. We're going to be introducing a top tier. We think it's probably going to be $25. And the idea is if you back at that tier, you will basically get to choose one of us to do a like a one-on-one 1 hour Skype call to talk about whatever, like a game project, proofread something for you, GM advice, campaign advice, anything like that. We don't really suspect that anybody's going to take that out. Maybe, I don't know. It could, maybe somebody will take it up. We just thought it is something that we do get asked a lot on like Discord for advice on things. And we usually give like kind of general advice on Discord, but this would be like people could send us a manuscript. They could send us their campaign notes. And we would read all that in advance and like basically give it a lot more personal attention than we would otherwise. So if anyone's interested in that, that's something we're going to be offering as a kind of a premium tier. Obviously, we wouldn't expect people to back at that for like multiple months necessarily. Although if you wanted to, then we could do that multiple times, but it would just be like once a month. Anyway.
It's like a super Q&A thing. Like, because we're obviously still doing the Q&A every month, where if you have a quick question, you can upload it. Those Q&A questions, we generally look at them on the day of recording our Patreon Q&As. So if it's something that can be quickly answered in like a 20-minute discussion between us, all good. But if you're wanting something a bit more in-depth, like you've written a setting book, or you've written a game and you want us to take a look at it and give you our feedback, we'll do that. And assuming you've given us enough time to actually read it, like a week or something in advance to sit down, read the thing, maybe get an idea of whatever your problem is that you want help with, your campaign, your manuscript, whatever. We'll do that, and then you'll get like a good hour or so, give or take. I mean, I'm sure we're not going to be sitting here going like this the whole time. No. But like a proper corridor discussion around it, then we can do that and give you some good rundown.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that's going to be the new top tier. Obviously, everything under that $25 you would still apply. So while you're in that month, you would still get access to everything at the $5 and $10 tiers as well, and the $2 tier. Okay, so that's the first big one. The second thing coming is we are going to be. We don't know when it's going to start yet, but we're going to be starting a campaign for our patrons, and it's going to be a Western Marches game. If you don't know what that is, we kind of touched on it a little bit in both of our Sandbox episodes way back. The idea is basically that there's very little GM prep involved. The players are a big group of players, and it's like a rotating cast of players. So you have to have kind of a base of operations where you basically make these excursions out into the wilderness or whatever, to do whatever. Usually it kind of originally came from like the OSR. So it's a lot of, like typical going and finding ruins, going into dungeons, that sort of thing for like one session. And then you would find treasure, do whatever, get experience for your character, and then you may or may not be there at the next session. It doesn't matter because everyone is meant to be like a sort of self-contained session. Obviously, it's not like a great thing for really in-depth, intrigue-based sort of plot-driven campaigns, but as a little bit of fun for something that we can offer for people who want to play. We would take turns GMing. It'd be once a month we'd be running this. So I'd be doing one, then the next month Liam would be running one, and then back and forth like that. It may be because of scheduling, it may be one of us in 2 months in a row, whatever. We'll figure it out. Yeah, and we're not sure 100% yet on what we're going to run, although Broom has been knocked around as the strong contender. We were thinking about maybe doing Broom setting with like an OSR set of rules, so it's a little bit lighter. But Liam's an old hand at Broom, vanilla rule set, and I'm going to be reading it in depth for our review coming up next, after we finished Mothership. So if that is the case, if that is what we run, then it's looking like it could very well be the vanilla Broom rules. And in that case, we'd probably be doing something like a guild of monster hunters on like the outskirts of Davokar, going in, and basically you as players would be monster hunters going in and, monster of the week type of thing, or monster of the month, I should say, type of deal. Also going to ruins or something. Maybe in one session you found some ruins, and then in the next one of the future sessions, the players might decide they want to go and explore those ruins. That could be something that happens as well. So it could be a bit of dungeon delving or whatever too. So, yeah.
If you have a preference around system or anything like that, let us know. Especially if you're a patron, let us know on Patreon or whatever. Like one thing that we throw around as an idea is, if not Broom, then we could do it as sort of a Mud and Blood's greatest hits setting wise. So you could have the Davokar there, but also other bits and pieces around. So we'd like whatever dark and gritty and grim thing we want to go into, we can go into. Or alternatively, the reason why we're throwing around Broom is because, one, Matt spent all this money on the full Broom back catalogue, and I already know it, but also that the rules are basically free. If you get the quick start rules, it doesn't include character gen, but it includes everything else. So it's an easy one for you guys to get into. That said, if everyone's like, no, give us the fucking black hack or death or whatever, let us know, and we'll see what we can do. At the end of the day, you guys have to want to play it. There's no point in us choosing a game that no one wants to play. So just let us know, either in the comments of wherever you saw this, or Patreon, or.
And there might be better. People might have really good ideas for other Western Marches games using different systems. Our only real criteria is it needs to be a fairly rules light system. So Broom is kind of mid crunch from what I actually have played in a one shot of it, so I'm kind of a little bit aware of it, of how it runs. It's probably at the crunchiest end of what we'd be willing to run. But yeah, so nothing like, we wouldn't run D&D, obviously. We wouldn't run Pathfinder, obviously, or anything higher crunch. So, and it doesn't actually need to be fantasy either. It could be like a sci-fi type of thing. We could do as like a Star Wars thing if that's what everybody wants, or whatever.
Yeah, Mothership.
Yeah, whatever. So yeah. Anyway, we'll turn that over to our patrons. We'll do like a Patreon poll, and ask them what they want. And yeah. I haven't really said who's going to be invited exactly. That will be at the higher tiers, so the invites will go out because we need a fairly big pool of players, and it will be a little bit tricky getting times lined up. Probably this sort of time would be ideal because it means that it's not really great for people in the Oceania side of the world, but for Europe and North America, where I think the bulk of our support is, it's kind of a weekend. Either during the day on a Saturday or in the evening if you're in Europe. Yeah. So maybe this could be like a kind of a good time to set something up. We don't know yet. But it'll be our $5 and $10 tier supporters that will be invited to play. So yeah. So that's a big change. So that's no change to the existing tiers. It's an additional thing that we're going to start offering. And again, as I said at the very beginning, if you're not familiar with Western Marches, it is fairly light on GM prep. So that's kind of why we think we can add this in without really stressing ourselves too much. And because we're going to be taking turns GMing, it also means that ideally, we're only going to be running it once every 2 months. So
the idea, I guess, is that like at the start of each month, whoever's running it that month will post up the day or the days that they want you to choose from. It might be that we offer 2 dates, and whichever gets the most people available, we'll go with. And then we'll offer like a seed, like explore the dungeons of so and so or whatever. Looking for adventurers bold and grim to go and then like it gives you an idea of what you're looking into, and then you basically tell us if you can come and if you can agree to that time. And once we've got 3 or more people, boom, we're good to go. Party's formed. Let's go. Depending on how much interest there is. So that's something. Let us know what you think anyway. That was our idea. You guys listening to this are active participants, hopefully. So let us know.
Yep. Then the next big Patreon change is another addition. This is only going to be going to people who are going to be pledging $10 or more, so the higher tiers. But that is basically we're going to be live streaming. This is the idea. The idea is that we're gonna live stream our actual plays going forward. Cult is is almost finished. We're going to be recording our last session, hopefully, in 2 weeks' time. Carrying Company has been finished for a couple of months now. So it basically would start with Liam's next actual play, whatever that might be. So if the actual... Right. Yeah, if the whole like kind of... I should be able to help him get it all set up so it runs, because it's relatively easy once you know what you're doing. But yeah, there might be some little teething pains there. At the very least, you'd be able to listen to it live. If that doesn't work, then we would record them and just upload the raw audio to Patreon, so that the $10 tier supporters can basically listen to it as it's recorded, or very shortly thereafter. And just to give you an idea, that would probably, I don't know when Liam's gonna think about starting to record that, but it wouldn't actually, like session 0 wouldn't go live until like November of this year. So I imagine you'd probably be thinking about doing it sometime in the summer, so you've got a nice healthy like backlog maybe, or leaving it more to the last minute, whatever.
No, you want to get it mostly, because if I'm going to be editing it as well, I don't want to be prepping for a game and editing for the game. So I'd like to time it in such a way that my winter, Northern Hemisphere summer, probably around about the time Cult starts, I think we'll start recording this one, and
so kind
see
of
what goes.
June-ish. Yep.
Maybe
that's another big change coming. And again, it's not changing up any of the existing tiers. It's again adding something to the $10 tier just to make it a little bit more. There's a little bit more in there, and it again isn't too much more extra work for us. We're already going to be recording those sessions. It's just, if we can stream it, then great. If we can't stream it, then you'd be getting an invite to actually listen to it live. You wouldn't be able to talk, so you could listen to it live while it's happening in Zoom, which is what we're using right now. This like double video format is a program called Zoom. You could listen live, and then we would record it and put the raw audio up for those backers as well. So yeah, that's the last thing that we want to talk about with Patreon stuff. Then we want to do more of this live streaming thing that we've got going here. We want to add a little bit more content to our YouTube channel, because at the moment it's just visual reviews, and we have talked already about putting up some of our backlog. So it's actually no video, it's just audio. We might have like a little ticker or something running in the background, or maybe not even that. It might just be a still image. But for people who don't, for some reason, want to use audio, we use podcast players, they want to use YouTube. We've noticed other podcasters do this, and we thought, well, it can't hurt. It just takes a little bit of time to upload everything. So starting hopefully soon, we're going to start uploading some of our backlog. We're not sure exactly what we're going to start with. I don't think we're going to start with our entire backlog, because it's quite a lot.
Yeah,
we'll figure it out. We haven't really decided yet, but there will be some new content coming to YouTube, which is that to start off with. And then the other big thing, we've in fact, just in the last couple of months, we've had 3 publishers reach out to us. I guess this is kind of a side effect of our podcasts kind of becoming more popular as we've been out for more than a year and a half now. We've had 3 publishers reach out to us and ask if we would be willing to review their games, because they've got big Kickstarters coming and they're on brand for us, whatever. But because of the way this show works with having to get interviews, like we always want an interview with a review, and that means we have to kind of plan our review cycle fairly far in advance to make sure that we can get people when we need them. So it means if somebody emails us says we're going to have a Kickstarter in a month, can you review our game on your show? It's like, sorry, it actually looks like a cool game, but the earliest we can slot you in is in like 6 months' time or whatever, right? Which is well too late. So one of the things we've been thinking about is maybe we can actually do some video content. We would do live streams, which would then go up as normal videos on YouTube, where we do shorter previews of these games. They wouldn't be released on our podcast, so this would be extra content only on YouTube. And basically, we try to keep it to 30 minutes, and we basically would we would have a skim or like a read through the game that has been sent to us, and we would give our kind of thoughts about it here. Definitely as a preview. We wouldn't have played it. We wouldn't have read it really in depth. It would just be sort of like, here's Mud and Blood's official first look thoughts preview of this game. And then that way they can maybe it can help them a little bit with promoting their game, unless we completely say shit. Yeah. And that way also it gives us a chance to look at some of these other games, because some of them do look really exciting and we would love to review them, do a full review, but it's just not, logistically not practical.
Yeah, it's been like three queries of this nature in the last 2 months. So it's like, and there's things out there that we do want to talk about. Like, we've discussed it early on when we first talked about reviews, how there's definitely a lot to be said by striking the iron while it's hot. Something's fresh and popular, review it. But because of the way we like to do reviews, because we want to be thorough rather than like quickly slap up a half a page review right as something drops, which isn't really a proper review, and like we've learned the hard way that if we do like a first reaction review without properly playing games, that when we do play the game, our opinion changes, not looking at any Warhammer 4th editions or anything. So we want to make sure our proper reviews that go up and are all written up with ratings and everything stay thorough. So this is more just like a reaction. Here's our first look. Here's our thoughts, whether or not we want to look at it properly in the future, what our initial reactions are, boom, go from there.
Yeah.
So it's the best of both worlds, hopefully.
And we can play around with stuff. For example, I can move video overlays around, so we like that half of the screen is devoted to a PDF. Oh god, can I get it back to where it was? More or less. And we can actually like do maybe previews of PDFs and stuff as they're happening. So again, it's just something we think we can do. It shouldn't take a lot of time to just kind of skim through a PDF that somebody sent us and then give our thoughts on it. So yeah, that's something that might be coming up in the future. So we'll see which one we do first. It looks like some of them have Kickstarters happening fairly soon, so we'd probably prioritize the ones that have Kickstarters coming up if we do any like in the next kind of couple of weeks, and then we'll just take it from there. And I think as we start doing it on our YouTube channel, we'll probably even get more requests for people to do the same for their games. So we might have to start gatekeeping a little bit in terms of, because I think one of the games that came in was a little bit iffy as to whether it kind of fit in with our brand or not. Again, you can't really tell from like a quick pitch that somebody's put in an email. You kind of have to look at it and say, is this actually, muddy and bloody, or is it just like a role-playing game that's, not so muddy and bloody?
Yeah, and then it's also like we have to be careful that we're not being cherry-picked because we've already given a favorable review of a previous product of a creator or something. Because as we've done this podcast, we've gotten to know creators, and you don't want to be sort of seen as there's I don't want to name any names because I know Matt's friends of some of them. There are podcasts that exist solely because of a single company, right? And they basically fan worship. And we don't want to end up in a situation where creators come to us being like, hey, can you please pimp our game? That's not what this is about. This is us still giving our initial reaction. And that might have the side effect of pimping their game for them. But that's not what we want to be offering. It's not a game fluffer service that we're offering here. So
it's an interesting way to put it. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Cool. And then the last thing we wanted to talk about is about Q&As and Patreon rambles. So these are Patreon specific things. We might be live streaming them in the future just because we've got the tech kind of set up right now, and doing it like the ramble can be anywhere from like an hour to an hour and a half usually. I think we've had one ramble that went on for 2 hours, which was a little bit too much, really. But if we're doing it on video, we'd kind of be aware that people have less stamina for watching a 1 hour video. So maybe it helped to keep them a little bit more condensed in terms of the ramble. Not that people are complaining that they're too long necessarily. Are you complaining that they're too long? I don't know. And the Q&As can really fucking stretch out. Yeah, no, that's true. Our Q&As can be anywhere from 20 minutes to 2 hours, depending on the number of questions that have been asked and the quality, not quality, but like the level of depth of the questions that have been asked. We had one month where we had one single question, and I think we spent like an hour and 20 minutes or something on that one question because it had a lot of legs. So anyway, again, sorry, this is kind of a Patreon specific thing, but it can't hurt. Like, basically, if we can do video now, we might just start doing video, throwing it up on our YouTube channel. Obviously, our Q&A and our rambles would be kept unlisted, so the links would only be visible to our Patreon supporters. But that way, people have got multiple options, and we'd probably still keep the raw audio and upload that so people can get it and listen to it instead of watching it. Because that doesn't. It
makes it a bit easier for us to do live Q&A and shit like that as well.
Yeah,
so,
people are interacting. Exactly.
Built up for chat. Zoom has that feature, but it's not ideal. And then we have to be careful where we link to it and stuff like that. It's always, it's less than ideal. So if we can do it on YouTube, we may only have 1 or 2 people watching. We may have none. It doesn't matter. It still gets recorded, goes up. If there's questions live, there's questions live. If there's not, there's not. It means if you ask a question like on the Patreon and then you come to the live stream and we answer that question, you could clarify or bounce off what we're saying, a bit more interactive. And that's what we want this whole thing to be. Like, all of our changes are all around trying to be more interactive and being more engaged with our patrons, because that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And that's basically it. So that's all we wanted to
31 minutes. 31.
I mean, I'm looking at my clock, and it's like it's saying 27 minutes past. So in my head, it's not even half an hour. So it's definitely less than an hour. But we're not finished yet, because we wanted to turn it over to the people in live chat and ask if anyone over there has any questions for us. So, cue up the Jeopardy music. I should have had a fucking Jeopardy music track ready to go, because you can pull music tracks in. Any questions from people in chat? Hit us. You've got we'll give you a couple of minutes of awkward silence from us while we're waiting and watching. We've noticed there's quite a few people here, which is really cool. We've got 11 viewers at the moment, which is very cool. We weren't sure how many people would turn up.
2.
So
I wasn't expecting any.
But you and I.
Yeah, basically.
So while we're waiting for the questions to crop up, thank you very much for everyone who's in the live chat and who is watching us right now. That's very cool just to see the chat kind of ticking along. Yeah. Any questions from you?
Did you while we're waiting for questions, there's someone on Twitter talking about how they're watching our Coriolis AP. You know?
Okay.
There's growing demand for a season 2 there, Matt. You might have to
I've just been thinking about this, obviously you've got the next AP after Colt's finished, and then I'll have the one after that. And I've done some polling and things, and the polls there wasn't a lot in it. The only one that had a really low result was Symbaroum, which I found a bit surprising. Every other option was more or less neck and neck. Degenesis and Vaesen were the 2 that were kind of the highest, but only by a little bit. Call of Cthulhu coming in second place, and Coriolis Season 2 in also kind of tied for third place, I should say. And yeah, I've been kind of thinking about it. I've gone back and looked at the Coriolis numbers, and there aren't a huge number of downloads, although that was one of our, right back at the beginning, just after we'd started. And obviously our listening numbers have gone up as time has gone by, or that way, depending on how you're looking at this, which way anyway, up. And it just seems to me like if a lot of people haven't listened to it, if we start a season 2, there's going to be a lot of people who haven't listened to season 1. It's a fairly big ask to ask people to go back and listen to all of season 1 to get caught up. So the challenge would be to make season 2 a little bit standalone in case people didn't want to do that, and that wouldn't be too hard. But also season 1 is only 10 episodes, and they're all under an hour long, so it's not a huge amount of listening to get caught up. So I don't know. I'm just kind of torn. I kind of want to do something new, but I also really want to continue the thing. I know Charlotte's in chats and already kind of Charlotte was one of the players in the Coriolis season 1. She really wants it to continue. James has just said Coriolis is getting a new lease of life from Free League, which is true. They've just bought the license off of Paradox, so there's going to theoretically be a lot more coming from it. Anyway, I don't know. So we've been rambling about Coriolis now, waiting for some questions to come out, and all that's happened, Liam, is that you've triggered a little Coriolis flurry of activity in the chat.
Let's see. No, I mean, that's
Oh,
their
you've said
fault.
ask some blarty questions.
Ask some bloody questions. Yeah,
Okay. I guess nobody's got anything really pressing on their minds other than,
can't be trusted.
cool. Let's not drag it out too much longer then. We'll do a little bit of I'll just blather for a little bit, use the old Wolfrip second edition skill. Is it actually a skill in 4th edition or talent? It's a talent, isn't it?
It's I think. Yeah, I think it is a talent. Yeah.
Only one way to find out.
Sean, I'm assuming you mean Sean from Carrying Company. He maybe he's like we had a few Seans on the podcast recently. I'm assuming you mean Sean from Carrying Company. Potentially, although his internet is terrible and he's currently based in Thimphu in
Bhutan.
Bhutan. But I mean, yeah, GM crush for sure. Sean's my GM for life. I've said on the podcast before, when you meet your game master that tells the stories you want to tell, you just hold on and don't let go. And Sean is a cantankerous bastard who occasionally says things that you wish he didn't, and he can be real hard work on your players and kill them, or your characters, and kill them horribly. But fuck, he tells some cool stories. So that's it. The other question we've got there is, what is that behind you, Matt? I think they're asking about your rabbits.
Yeah. I would get the rabbit out and pick it up and point it at the camera, except that I've had 6 hours of sitting with it today. My wife did about an hour, so I've done about 5 hours of sitting with that rabbit and 2 other rabbits. Because this one has just been neutered and the stitches have just come out, and we have 2 other rabbits which are bonded, which means they're kind of friendly. And we wanted to try and get all 3 of them to be friends, and long story short, it didn't really work very well. Lots of chasing, lots of biting, and we have like a neutral room where none of them have been in before, all set up, where lots of food scattered everywhere so they can kind of like hop around and look at everything. There's one boy bunny and 2 girl bunnies, which is apparently a good combination to have, possibly, for some people. And the boy bunny was just asserting his dominance, chasing him around, biting him. No blood, but pretty stressful. So that's been my day. Rabbit wrangling. So, Charlotte, there you go. You said, tell us about your rabbits. That's about my rabbits. I would pick this one up, except it's had such a traumatic day. It doesn't like being held. So, I don't want the RSPCA equivalent here in Germany, which is probably an acronym with 600 letters, to come chasing me.
Fair enough.
All right, let's see. Any other questions before we come off? Carrying Company, my GM crush. Okay.
Is it?
Great
Is
ideas.
it? Is leather a talent or a skill?
It's a talent. It is a talent.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think it's actually a talent in 2nd edition as well. I think first edition didn't have talents, did it? First edition. Oh, God, now I gotta check 2nd edition. God damn it. I have a feeling it might be a skill, actually, in 2nd edition. What do you think before I open the book?
Nah. My gut reaction was to say skill, but we'll see.
I'm going to go skill. I don't think it is, but I think it's a skill. You saying skill as well? Blather is a skill.
There you go.
Right.
There you go.
Putting a bit of Warhammer love into the live stream. Got to keep it real. All right, I think that is it. James Henderson, ex-boy. Yeah, he's had his bollocks sliced off. Rabbits are no joke. No. They're very, very cute, though. All right, that's us. Charlotte's taken off. She's just like taken off before us. that's us. So yeah, thanks for listening. I've got to keep an eye here because it's like there's a 10-second delay. So just keep my eye over on the YouTube. So this happened the other time I live streamed for a different channel, which I shall not mention, where I ended it too early because we'd finished talking, but the live stream hadn't. So anyway, thanks for watching. I'm gonna do this so it's easy for me to see when we're finished, and catch you next time. There's my piece. You're doing your salute. Click.